zero, you could not even insure a hot dog stand. The only way we could get insurance was partnering with one of our large companies with Lloyd's of London, and the premiums were through the roof. So we offered a program. God forbid that we had another terrorism attack that would be there to respond to it immediately with a government backstop. Meaning the federal government would be the insurer of last resort in a devastating terrorist attack. This program is still ongoing. As of this year, it would be triggered after losses from a terrorism event exceed $200 million. This government backstop allows insurance firms to offer terrorism insurance with premiums that are affordable. Without the backstop, insurance firms might simply stop writing terrorism insurance, or it would be uninsured. By now, you can surely see the parallels between terrorism and the pandemic from an insurance perspective, and that's why Congresswoman Maloney has introduced a similar act called the Pandemic Risk Insurance Act. According to most private insurance, they cannot provide business-to-customer pandemic insurance support. So this will allow a program to help businesses recover and react and rebuild after a pandemic. Here's what she proposes. First, once a pandemic is declared, each participating insurer pays out a deductible, which is equivalent to 5% of the value of premiums they collected in the previous year, and the total amount of losses faced by insurers exceeds $250 million. Once the program is triggered and started, the federal government will be responsible for 95% of losses, and the insurers will be responsible for 5% of losses up to $750 billion cap. Maloney acknowledges there's a lot of resistance and Congress taking on such a potentially massive program. But if we have 9/11, if we have another pandemic, government is going to go in. We're going to go in to help. So we might as well set up a program that sets the parameters, the way it's going to work, and is a partnership with the private sector who will be assuming part of the loss.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's utterly crazy. So in 100 years, when the next global pandemic happens, we'll save those businesses?
That, again, is Robert Carroll, the New York State legislator. Just so you know, he and Maloney are both Democrats. His problem with Maloney's proposal is that it is not that it doesn't force insurers to pay out for this pandemic.
Carroll wanted a similar bill after September 11th, when insurance companies tried not to pay out things. When was that September 11th? It hasn't happened. Insurance companies love this. It's a great headline. People think, oh, they did something. Everyone goes bankrupt.
Bruce Carnegie Brown of Lloyd's of London has a different set of objections to Carroll and Maloney's proposal.
Rather than just create a kind of pandemic insurance product for the government, our argument has been that that might be yesterday. What if tomorrow's problem is a systemic cyber attack? So why don't we create a government that is more flexible and can be used to address particular risks as they arrive? I think the key issue is resilience, actually. Resilience is a quality that is much undervalued by our economic models generally around the world. So, we've all been taught to grow as quickly as we can, we talk about lean inventories and just-in-time delivery and extended supply chains, and companies' valuations are typically to that way of working. And I think we need to find ways to factor more value into this issue of resilience. So interestingly, companies, when they report business once a year and quarterly, make no mention of insurance, the protection that they have or do not have. And so insurance is not yet embedded in companies thinking about resilience of their balance sheets and their business models. And I think that's a mistake. What it does come back to this fact that I think the world is underinsured. And I think insurance can help build resilience against specific events when they happen.
To that end, Lloyd's has come up with 3 forward-looking insurance plans. The first is called Restart.
Restart is very specifically about trying to provide what we call non-damage business interruption insurance.
In other words, the kind of business interruption insurance that most firms who've had business interruption insurance thought would cover them for the pandemic, but which didn't. Another idea is called Recover Re, with the re standing for reinsurance.
Recover Re is more of a banking product. Effectively, it allows you to take a claim up front and then recover it in premiums collected over subsequent periods of time.
Sort of insurance company meets mortgage lender, if you will. And the third product is called Black Swan.
Black Swan really is trying to address the fact that some of these events are just too large, and so they need government engagement.
Carnegie Brown, of an insurance firm, plainly is talking his own book, as he admits, but the economist and risk scholar Howard Pinewood does see value in rethinking insurance and rethinking the relationship between private firms and the public sector when it comes to future risks.
The idea of managing risks is critical, and this is an opportunity for us to really reflect on what kind of risks the insurers can and cannot provide on a wide variety of different risks. Climate change is certainly one of them, and there is exponential growth with respect to CO2 emissions that will cause major damage on flood, trillions of dollars where there have only been billions in recent years. So let's take advantage of the pandemic to broaden our view of how we deal with catastrophic risks, and then say what kind of a public-private partnership we want to have. We're looking at all of it.
Janice Junker, co-proprietor of Three Brothers Bakery in Houston, is paying some attention to these bigger issues of insurance policy, but she is more focused on the small issues, the issues she can actually control.
One thing about disasters, I tell everyone, you get one kiddie party and no more, because you've got to get to work.
Junker, despite her intimate involvement with multiple disasters, remains an optimist.
I always say out of everything bad comes something good,
including the history of her own small business.
So the bakery history began about 200 years ago in Poland, and the family baked continuously until the Nazis came and took the family and frankly the bakery in 1941. And then my husband's grandparents were murdered in Auschwitz.
The survivors eventually made it to Houston.
And they didn't speak English, but they knew the language of baking. And so what were they going to do? So they started a bakery. And my husband is now the 5th generation in the family that bakes Eastern European style breads, pastries, etc.
We asked Tucker if she is planning to sue her insurance company over their lack of coverage for the pandemic.
Lawsuits are emotionally draining, and you're working backwards. And so, in the case of this, it's probably going to be a class action. The lawyers are going to get a lot of money. I don't know that it's worth it for me. It might be worth it for a bar that's completely closed and lost all their revenue. Then I would probably do it, because what else do you have to do? You're completely closed.
And how about having state legislatures force payouts?
I would be shocked if the insurance companies have to pay business interruption, because frankly, I think they'll all go out of business.
Would Jucker consider buying pandemic coverage now?
It would have to be better than what I heard about recently. I think it was $10,000 or $100,000 in coverage. That's just not worth it to me.
So what does Tucker think would actually be most helpful to small businesses like hers?
Vote on a stimulus package. That's the most important thing above all else. And, you know, I'm not saying any political thing. I'm just saying that Americans are more concerned about what's in their wallet right now.
Coming up next time on Freedoms Radio,
Steve, I really don't like that this interview is never going.
John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods Market, is a famously outspoken leader.
But you know what? Every time you get a star, you try not to do the same stupid thing again, right?
Mackey argues for thinking differently about how business is done. He calls it conscious capitalism and conscious growth. Now that Whole Foods is owned by Amazon, it's next time on Freedoms Radio. Until then, take care of yourself and, if you can, someone else. Freedoms Radio is produced by Stitcher and Dunder Productions. This episode was produced by Zach Lipinski. Our staff also includes Allison Craiglow, Greg Riddle, Matt Dickey, Daphne Chen, Mary DeDuke, and Sarah Walker. We had help this week from James Foster. Our theme song is Mr. Fortune by the Hitchhikers, and all the other music was composed by Luis Guerra. You can get Freedoms Radio on any podcast app. If you want the entire back catalog, use the Stitcher app or freedoms.com, where we also publish transcripts and show notes. We can be reached at radio@freedoms.com. As always, thanks for listening. I must know, related to Andrew Carnegie?
Well, the black sheep stayed in Scotland and the others went to the United States and made their fortune. So.
Stitcher.
Support for NPR and the following message come from American Express.
Disruptive time. And today we're going to hear from Justin Gold. He's the founder of Justin's, which makes peanut and almond butters, protein bars, and other nut snacks. And ever since the pandemic started, Justin has noticed a few changes in the way people shop for their comfort. So first, he told me a bit about how he got started.
So I'm a vegetarian, and 17 years ago I started making peanut butter and almond butter in my kitchen with a food processor, mainly because I said impossible. Back then there were two types of peanut butter. It was smooth and crunchy, that was really it. There were a few brands of almond butter, none of them tasted really good. But the almonds tasted amazing, so curiosity led me down a path of experimenting. And then with the food processor, I'm making all these concoctions, putting them in jars, literally putting them in the fridge and in the cupboards. My roommate started eating them all, started with Justin's on the jars, right, to kind of protect it. And at that point, someone said, hey, this is a really great product. I thought about turning it into a business. Didn't know anything about business, but what I did know how to do was use a library. So I used CU's Business School's library. I didn't go to college.
That's Colorado
University.
University.
In Boulder. I didn't go to school here, but I felt confident using the library. And I wrote a business plan and got a lot of help from local mentors and advisors and people in the community. Launched at the farmers market. And when I launched, it was just with the jars. And I got them into a few local stores. And I was really struggling. And what got us kind of noticed, I guess you could say, was getting outside the jar and getting into a squeeze pack. And a squeeze pack was really our single point of differentiation. It allowed consumers not only to travel with order of plant-based protein, but also have its trial size to try something new at home. Almond butter was, over $10 a jar. And that's a big rate for someone to try something new. But for a squeeze pack, it alleviated that pain, brought them into the franchise. Then we also do chocolates, and it's not because it was a really smart business decision, it's because I love peanut butter cups, and no one was making
Who
peanut
doesn't?
butter.
Those are the things I pick out in my kids' Halloween packs. Just going back on the squeeze packs. For those who don't know what they are, peanut butter, kind of like those energy packs. I use those when I run. They're great. And so that was really the differentiator. It wasn't the jars. They looked different, but that wasn't what got the attention. It was those little squeeze packs.
It was. I thought the jars would be enough because we had honey, we had cinnamon, maple, and just the flavor differentiation. But it still really wasn't enough to stand out on shelves. And what happened was the squeeze pack, not only did it create a whole new subcategory of products, but also made affordable protein kind of nut butter a reality. And it all came because I'm a big nut liker and I wanted protein. Didn't need more sugar or carbohydrates. And what was really fun is when we first launched the product, people didn't know what to do with it, right? They were like, well, do I put it on a sandwich with the jelly and then mix it together? I'm like, no, put it on an apple, banana, eat it right out of the pack. And they're like, oh, really? And then what happened is when other companies started to create their own squeeze packs, it really validated it as a category. So really special. What it's really done
during the pandemic. The jar business is the strongest part of our business because it is that household plant-based protein that is a staple.
I read an interview you gave where you described first food science. I think one of the things you did, this is really cool, anybody who's starting a business now, the early days you would go to Whole Foods and you look at all of the last stores at Whole Foods to find out what were being made in glass jars and where they were manufactured or packed. And you contacted a glass jar co-packer in the area and begged them to have some time on their line. And I guess you got like overnights and weekends. And you basically spent 3 years just packing your own nut butter into glass jars. And that was not sustainable, right? It was not profitable, it was not sustainable, it was just a how did you keep going? What made you not just give up?
And I knew the numbers I needed to achieve. I had a plan of what retailers I needed to roll out to achieve those numbers. And it was the optimism that I had from the local community. Oh, it's a great community. They support local, they support natural and organic, they support the entrepreneur. And I also realized that I'm not really a skilled operator. My passion and skill is outside of the manufacturing. But I knew that I had to hit certain volumes in order to get to a manufacturing facility. But then I could focus on other things, sales, marketing, and growing the brand. And so I really worked really hard knowing that there was a light at the end of the tunnel.
In March, when the people pandemic was going to be a serious thing, people rushed to the stores to buy toilet paper and energy bars, and I'm assuming nut butters too. I'm assuming that you probably saw a spike in sales. Is that right, by the way?
We did not across the board, but across some of our business, yes.
Then were you bracing for a decline in revenue? I know that Justin's Nut Butters were purchased by Hormel in 2016, so you've got a track company, but you still operate independently and you still work there. Were you guys kind of bracing for a decline in revenue?
So the first thing we had to do was make sure that everyone in our organization felt safe, supported, and that they had food, and that everyone knew that we weren't going to just shut down our business. So I think giving people this sense of security gave them the optimism to continue to do their job because they knew they were taken care of. And we didn't know what to brace for, to be completely honest. We started to reach out to our retailers to see what they needed. And they told us exactly what they needed, more product. Everything flowed downstream, so then we reached out to our contract manufacturers to make sure that we stayed, in supply. And we actually had to make sure that they were taking care of their people. It's like having 4 holidays back to back to back. It's unprecedented demand. And so the first thing we had to do was kind of cut back on the SKUs that weren't our top sellers. And then our manufacturers went to 7 days a week, and monitoring their progress and monitoring stores and allocating it to stores based on their demand and needs, and pulling resources away from food service and putting them towards grocery. It's wild.
And what kind of trends are you noticing or seeing in terms of sales and consumption? I mean, are people sort of back to consuming Justin's Nut Butters in the same way? But people over time, for example, and also they're eating at home. So are you noticing any trends that you hadn't seen before?
Yeah, and it's fascinating because one of our roles is innovation within our organization. So it's trying to, yes, and to understand the things that I need in my daily life. The trends we're noticing are right? You're in and you're out. So a lot of the impulse purchases have been flat, even declining. So some of our chocolate items that were single serve aren't doing nearly as well as the chocolate items that are multi-packs. Same goes with our jars, doing really well because something you can take home. Our squeeze packs aren't doing as well as the jars because it's more of an on-the-go activity. And I feel like people aren't as on the go because they are right now. They're home, they can take a spoonful of peanut butter rather than have squeeze packs. So we've noticed that a lot of the trends are at home. We've also positioned ourselves well to a lot of retailers by being part of their online kind of shopping programs. Consumers aren't going to stores as often, and so the brands that are leveraging results with the online platforms and Instacarts and whatnot are seeing success with that as well. And that was something that caught me by surprise. But now I get it, right? That's part of the future.
Well, I'm going to just a moment more of my conversation with Justin Gold and advice for future entrepreneurs who may be wondering, is now the right time to keep building? Stay with us. I'm Guy Raz, and you're listening to How I Built This Resilience Edition from NPR. This message comes from NPR sponsor WeTransfer and its set of tools for transforming doubts into ideas. Collect is a mobile app that helps you save, organize, and share inspiration. Paper is a digital notebook that captures your thinking. Paste is a presentation tool to make it easier to present your ideas. And WeTransfer is a modern, simple file transfer tool. The next time you doubt something, let WeTransfer's set of tools help move your ideas forward. Learn more at toolstomoveideas.com. And one more thing, the New York Times best-selling book, How I Built This, is now available. It's a great read and a great gift for anyone looking for ideas, inspiration, wisdom, and encouragement to have the courage to put out an idea into the world. It's filled with tons of stories you haven't heard about how some of the greatest entrepreneurs you know and respect started out at the very bottom. Check out How I Built This, the book, available wherever you buy your books. Hey, welcome back to How I Built This Resilience Edition. And I'm talking with Justin Gold. He's the founder of Justin's, which makes nut butters and snacks. Justin, put on your entrepreneur's hat for a moment. I mean, you started this business in 2004 when you were in college. I think you were studying to be a lawyer. Right now, a lot of people have work, but there's also some indication that many people are considering starting their own businesses. I think the number of applications for employee identification numbers has increased by 500,000 this year compared to this time last year. That's the first step in starting a business, as you know. Do you think that it's a good time to do that? I mean, do you think that despite the challenges that there are opportunities at this moment?
It depends, right? I mean, there's 2 things that are most important to me. Number 1, is there an unmet consumer need? And number 2, are you passionate about it? So if there's that problem that you identify, that you're passionate hard, you're looking for something to do, and you're not sure, that can be tricky. But again, if you don't start somewhere, you'll never end up anywhere. So I never turn entrepreneurs away with a bad idea. I always talk to them and say, look, I don't know if this is a good idea or not. But if you're passionate about it, you think it's media, it's consumer need, then launch it, see what happens. And guess what will probably happen is if it fails, you'll learn from that failure and pivot it to hopefully find your success. And if you are lucky and you get it right the first time, wow.
When you started selling nut butters, you weren't making a whole lot of money, and I don't think you were profitable. But how did you know that it was going to work? That you should continue? Was it just people saying this is awesome, this is so good? Was that basically it?
You never know, right? I mean, you never know. And I think it's the law of attraction. I think that if you think about growth and you think about success, you'll find the people that will help encourage it and promote it. I was always thinking that this was going to work. I just didn't know how or when.
Yeah.
And let's face it, I got a lot of encouragement. People were like, wow, this is really great. This is a great idea. I got a lot of, how come no one's ever done this before? And those really gave me a lot of encouragement to continue. And I also got a few people who were, peanut butter? Why would you go into Be My Magic Guy? Like, here I am, I want to be a lawyer. My parents were, oh, Justin, our son's going to be a lawyer. We're so proud. And then I decided not to go to law school, jumped off the LSAT. I graduated degree in environmental policy. I moved to San Francisco Bay Area, and I worked at a restaurant in Point Reyes, Station House Cafe. Worked at that restaurant for a year, moved to Colorado. My parents would know, oh, our son, he's confused. He'll figure it out. And then I come to my mom and dad, and I go, Mom, Dad, I figured out what I want to do. Son, you're going back to school. You want to be no, I make organic peanut butter and almond butter. And my parents were like, oh, what have we done? What have we done? So I also got some naysayers. And my parents were also supportive. A lot of people also have like this. It's a huge category, huge companies. And it had been the same for a long time. And that's where I got lucky.
I imagine that when you were working at that restaurant at Point Reyes, you weren't thinking, I'm going to do nut butters. Like, there was some point where you had a revelation, where you thought, this is the thing I want to do, and then it kind of stuck with you. What's your recommendation for finding an idea, coming up with something to start?
I don't know. I guess for me, there's two things that I did, right? Number one, when I was up till 3 in the morning writing a business plan, grinding almonds and peanuts and adding hot pepper and cinnamon and fresh banana and dried banana and chocolate and staying up all night and eating until I had to lie down on my back because I couldn't fit anymore. But I was up all night doing this stuff, and then I was, holy crap, it's 3 in the morning. I knew that this was something powerful because it had such a grip on me. It was so exciting. And it didn't feel like work, and it still doesn't. And that's the whole. So number one, I knew there was something there because it was really fun. And the second thing was I was very optimistically cautious, right? So I worked second jobs. I was waiting tables up until I had 2 employees. I got a job at REI, some backpacks and skis and sleeping bags, but I had 5 employees. And so I was constantly putting everybody else first to make sure that we can make payroll, we can keep making the products. I'll get health insurance somewhere else. I'll have a second job. And so I didn't take the total leap until everybody else was being paid fair and wages, and then I finally paid myself fair wage. So even though I had all this confidence, I put a lot of people first to make sure the business was being served before I was being served.
All right, we're getting questions here from our listeners, and this is from random text for YouTube. This person asks, I sell a brewing cocoa as a coffee alternative at a farmer's market. What advice do you have for someone like me who is selling at a farmer's market but wants to move to regional distribution?
The first thing you have to do is start local, right? You have to own your home, and that gives you success there. And once you own your home, you have permission to move out to the next layer. And the next layer can be specialty gourmet stores, it can be coffee shops, it can be natural food stores. And then you concentrically keep growing. You have to own your home. If you can do well in your home market, that can give you the success and the momentum to continue to that next concentric ring.
So essentially you're saying this person has to, when you say own the home, like the farmer's market, people who come to that farmer's market need to know, oh, you want brewing cocoa? That's where you got to go.
You got to get it into all the other coffee shops, you got to get it in the hardware store, you got to get it in grab-and-go locations, the grocery
Right.
stores. What's crazy is if you see one product in one store once, you kind of like forget it. If you see the same product in 4 or 5 different stores, you're like, all right. Clearly, I have to try this product. And so owning your home is getting it everywhere. And once you own your home, you can kind of understand your consumer, understand where you belong. Maybe coffee shops is your direction. Maybe grocery is your direction. Maybe, performance outdoor stores is your direction. And if you own your home, you can kind of, assess what's working and what isn't, and take that and you can expand it.
All right, here's another question from Facebook. Stephanie Leisner. Stephanie asks, now that more competitors are coming up with their own natural organic versions of nut butters, how does Justin stay differentiated in that choice?
That's a really tough question. It's one that, I hadn't had to think about before. And so right now, there's multiple ways. Number one, we have to stay consistent. We have to continue to deliver a high-quality product. We can't take any steps backwards because that'll give a consumer reason to leave. The second thing we have to do is be better. Continue to create better products, innovate in new categories. And I think the most important thing is really have a greater purpose. That buying a jar of almond butter, not only is it good for our bodies because it's a high-protein, plant-based product, but we're supporting farmers, we're supporting pollinators, we're supporting hunger relief programs, we're supporting non-GMO, organic, regenerative, all the things that are going to restore balance to our bodies and the earth. And I think purpose is really important.
All right, here's a question from Jessica Goldstein. Jessica's curious why the presence of palm oil or anything other than just nuts, why is that necessary as additions to your products? I'm looking for ingredients, and it's just dry roast almonds and palm oil. So why?
Great question. So palm oil, it's in a lot of food products. And if it's harvested correctly, it's really a beneficial oil because it's a non-hydrogenated that helps contain those free and loose almond and peanut oil, so you don't have to continue to always stir it. And palm oil is controversial, so we've done a really good job identifying sustainably grown palm oil so we can make sure that we're giving back to our communities, to our consumers, the places we buy.
there are palm oils that are grown organically and sustainably, and I use it for cooking sometimes. But there's of course other parts of the world where it's clear cut to plant palm oil grows, and that's where a lot of the controversy comes from.
Palm oil is in a lot of food products. It's in a lot of cosmetics where they don't have ingredients. It's in ice creams and chocolates. And what's interesting is with our products, we use a very, very small percent of it. But when there's 2 ingredients, right? It's very visible.
Before I go, Justin, what's something that you kind of want to take away from the last year with you, future when, let's say, the company goes back to normal, you are on the road again, you're traveling again, or you're in the office. What's something that you kind of learned about yourself, or about your leadership style, or about the way you work that you want to continue to do after this pandemic hopefully ends?
I don't know if we'll ever experience normal. Whatever normal is what we need. This is normal. And I think that when the world evolves, this need to travel, and this need to be in person, and this need to be away from our family, I think that will evolve. And I'm not saying that this is going to be the future, but it's a part of the future. And I think that we all need to consider, what does that mean? How does that impact our lives? And what are the opportunities? Food products for snacking, how does that evolve? Categories of grocery, how does it interact with each other? And so it gets me really excited to think about that. And the most important thing for me, we talked about this off the air, was the time I've spent with my family that I wouldn't have otherwise. And that's really precious, and it has me reconsidering my needs and wants.
That's an excerpt from a conversation with Justin Gold, founder of Justin's. To see our full interview, you can go to facebook.com/howIbuiltthis. And if you want to see all of our past live interviews, you can find them there or at youtube.com/NPR. If you want to find out more about the How I Built This Resilience series or other virtual NPR events, you can go to nprpresents.org. This episode was produced by Liz Nexter with help from Will Mitchell, Bruce Grant, Matt Adams, Del Mannion, Jonah, John Isabella, Julie Carmen, and Jim Rogers. Our intern is Sarah Safari. Thanks for listening. Stay safe. I'll see you here in 2 days. I'm Guy Raz, and you've been listening to How I Built This Resilience.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Supermicro, a global leader in high-efficiency server technology. Boost your cloud, IoT, 5G, and AI infrastructures with Supermicro's resource-saving server systems powered by Intel. Learn more at supermicro.com.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Kicking Horse Coffee. Dreams don't come true until dreamers wake up. So wake up with Kicking Horse Coffee. It's available at Amazon or visit kickingHorseCoffee.com. Dream, then do. Go make them true.
We'll start the show. How I Built This book is now a New York Wall Street Journal bestseller. So thank you to all of you who ordered it and for your support of the show. If you haven't picked it up and want to learn the secrets of how to develop an entrepreneurial business, How I Built This, the book is for you. It's now available wherever books are sold in most countries around the world, or by visiting howibuiltthis.com or GuyRaz.com. Hey everyone, welcome to How I Built This Resilience Edition. In these episodes, we're talking to other business leaders about how they're meeting today's challenges with new strategies and ideas. And today, we're going to Cheryl Conti, founder and CEO of Cheryl was part of the How I Built This Summit both in 2018 and 2019. Her digital agency, Do Big Things, helps organizations like Google, the NAACP, and Etsy with creative strategy, website development, campaign content, and much more. Tell us a little bit more about Do Big Things. Tell us about your company.
Sure, absolutely. So Do Big Things is a digital agency, as you mentioned, that specializes in working towards leading causes, campaigns, candidates, corporations with mission-driven initiatives to provide the new narrative, the new tech for the new era in which we all are living in today. We're working really hard on the election, but also on the pandemic. We've been working on eviction prevention campaigns. We're likely to start working on a campaign targeted at misinformation around vaccines. We're out here really trying hard to help people.
And sort of give a sense of how you work with companies, like campaigns, of course, and sort of creative marketing, strategic advice, things like that.
People come to us for a lot of different reasons, right? Because we are a digital full service agency. Whether you need strategy, you need research on online influencers and who to target where, what, whether you want to run ads for persuasion or for acquisition, we're building apps, we build websites. It just depends on, you need to do something online to reach someone, usually not to sell anything. We're not selling things, widgets to face cause. We're helping to promote positive ideas that create social change.
So I know, Cheryl, before you launched Do Big Things, you actually created another business, Attentive.ly, which is a social marketing software business, and one of the first tech startups with a black founder, and then was acquired by a Nasdaq company. Can you just kind of walk us through the journey of that business and how it was acquired, and then how you decided to start Do Big Things?
Well, that's a long story of how I started Attentively. But basically, we saw a gap in the market, and I think, especially in this time, for those people maybe who lost their job or their job is changing, look at the gaps around you and see if you're able to provide a solution to that problem. That's what we did. We saw in the corporate marketing segment that there were a lot of people using social listening, influencer engagement, and marketing automation in very sophisticated ways online that nonprofits didn't have access to for a lot of different reasons. Price, the tools were really tailored to the way that they talk about their audiences. So that's why we created Attentive, to meet that need and fill that gap. And we had competition, of course, and we were very visible. Also, as an all-female team with a black co-founder, it wasn't easy to get funding. We had to work really hard and experience some real challenges, despite running at the same time another digital agency that had pulling millions of dollars in revenue. We were still seen as risky, which to me seemed very, very strange. Long story short, we grew over time. We became the dominant player in our market, and we were an impact startup that then became acquired by Impact Corporation, Blackbaud, which is one of the main creators of nonprofit software. So it's possible to do good by doing good, and that's what we do here and what we did at Team.
I know that you've got a blog and you write for different publications a lot about increasing diversity in entrepreneurship. Can you talk a little about some of the ways that you are trying to push this idea out into the world?
Absolutely. Well, when you look at the field right now, there's still this socialization in our country and our world that an entrepreneur looks like Mark Zuckerberg. And no disrespect to Mark, but he's not the only person who's got great ideas. Entrepreneurs can come in every shade, every size, every color. And that's the thing that I think we need to work hard, especially now as our economy is rebooting, to work on. So I wrote a book, Mechanical Bull, How You Can Achieve Startup Success. It's the story of my journey, but there's also a lot of friends of mine who are investors, who are founders themselves, and it's their stories as well of, what did it take to get through every part of the startup cycle, which is tough. I named it Mechanical Bull in part because it's a wild ride coming to tech startup, no question, especially if you're a woman. When a woman rides Mechanical Bull, people have a different response to that than a man. When a man rides Mechanical Bull, they're looking at strength, strategy, stamina. When a woman is riding a Mechanical Bull, they're watching cheerleaders, right? And they're not really focused on the same amount of effort, maybe more effort than it takes for a woman, that same strength, strategy, and stamina. So, I did it the tough way. Okay? Being in the tech world as a Black woman, not easy at all. Absolutely dancing backwards in hoops.
You wrote an article in Harvard Business Review. It's called Advice on Launching a Tech Startup When You're Not a Black Man. And it's a really terrific article. One of the things you talked about was that when founders of color are pitching VCs, they're pitching ideas that may help their communities out, but may not solve problems or impact the lives of the rich, predominantly white men who they're pitching. So what advice do you have for up-and-coming founders and founders of color to kind of demonstrate that the big ideas are worth it, are worth backing, even if the potential funders, might not be directly impacted by that product or service?
I do hope that people check out that article because we work really closely with Harvard Business Review on it, and it has a lot of practical tips that I think people can use right now. But at least what worked for me was data, right? And showing, look, you might not get this totally. This isn't a problem that I'm solving for you, wealthy, white, male investor. But there's a lot of people for whom this is an issue, and here's how much money we can make. We can do a lot of good. Some investors really care about that, especially right now. Also, this is a pathway to making a lot of money and creating a successful business that